Saudi textbooks erase Palestine, a new shift in Middle East politics. The findings of an Israeli UK think tank's study on Saudi Arabian's textbooks have revealed a notable shift in the kingdom's educational materials, potentially signaling a groundwork for normalizing ties with Israel. As noted in the report, quote, year on year, we are seeing advances in Saudi textbooks, which add up to a curriculum that embraces tolerance and moderation. These recent changes, which include more open attitudes towards Israel, are an important step in this direction, said Marcus Sheff, the CEO of Impact SE, which is the think tank that conducted this study. The study documented the removal of anti Semitic content, conspiracy theories about Zionism, and references to Israel as the Zionist enemy, instead, adopting more neutral language like the Israeli occupation army. However, one striking observation was the erasure of Palestine from most maps and lessons. This development has sparked speculation about a potential shift in Middle East politics, as the ultraconservative Muslim kingdom appears to be moderating its stance on Israel while downplaying the Palestinian cause in its educational curriculum. So, let us unpack what's going on here. So let me be clear. When the reporting says that Saudi textbooks erase Palestine from the maps, basically what is happening is that just that area of land from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea is just unlabeled. It's not labeled Israel, but it's also not labeled Palestine. Um these textbooks, so this think tank has been monitoring these textbooks for years now. And so they can track these changes over time, and they use their criteria are supposed to be very objective and neutral, following policies of UNESCO criteria and standards for peaceful education, right? So they're supposed to be just unbiased in looking at these textbooks and balancing it against internationally established criteria, right? Um and so they have taken in these textbooks have removed entire chapters praising the positive effects of the first intifada. They have taken out language about Zionist enemies, conspiracies about the European Zionist plot, conspiracies that the Zionist plan is to basically take over Arab territories, take over oil fields, take over their resources. Instead, it shifted to talking about Israel not as a Zionist enemy, but more as an occupation force. So moderating its language a lot. And yeah, it has removed entire chapters on Palestine in general. Not only that, so when part of the labeling thing is that they are just not labeling any country that doesn't border Saudi itself. And so what people who are commenting on this was saying was that what we need to understand is that this sends a signal about how Saudi wants to go for projecting into the future, right? Because this isn't going to be reflected in attitudes, you know, immediately or for the generations that have already come or are already here. This is projecting into the future, looking at what is being decided is what the country wants to become. And I this was so interesting to me. Like I said, this is not a strictly religious based story, which is really what we try to cover on these on our show together here. But it was just too interesting for me to not um talk about it. So here's another quote. Other improvements include the removal of hateful examples of Jews, Christians, and polytheists or infidels, as well as moderating discourse towards the Shia and Sufi streams of Islam. Additionally, there was improvement concerning gender issues with the removal of statements regarding traditional roles for women. Likewise, a significant amount of homophobic content was also removed. The report also highlighted the way that Saudi textbooks denounce radical Muslim ideologies such as the Muslim Brotherhood, Hezbollah, ISIS, Al Qaeda, and the Houthis, and more. In this context, violent interpretations of jihad and martyrdom were abolished. Um, so it was so interesting. And when I was talking to Armin about this, I was like, I feel like the world is like flipping in reverse. It's so interesting that like Saudi is trying to mellow and at least neutralize, calm down, and moderate the language and rhetoric and attitudes towards Israel versus here in the West, they're like the most foaming at the mouth and radical I've ever
Mm.
seen in my entire short life. Um, so please tell me your reactions, Armin, because I was like, whoa.
Um, Before I tell you my reaction, do you remember that video I sent you from a Saudi man after October 7th releasing a short video cursing Palestinians and telling them that you're not even Arabs, that this
Yeah,
is
it was
not
a
your
little bit
land,
racist,
this
I'm not
is.
gonna lie.
Yeah, do you have that? Because I can't find that. I wanted to show the people that, but it was pretty
Oh,
intense.
sure.
Like there's a Saudi guy, like everybody hates you, Arab people hate you, the world hates you. Everywhere you go, you cause trouble. And this was like from Saudi, like yeah, there's a lot of hatred for Palestinians in the Arab world. Like I don't know if people know that. There's, I mean, when it comes to people, remember that they love Palestinians when Islamists, more Islamists, when something happens in Palestine. But on normal days, when Palestine is not on the news, they're treated like they're treated really badly, like Palestinians in Lebanon, Palestinians in Syria, Palestinians in Saudi Arabia. They're treated like inferior troublemakers everywhere they go, like people with radical beliefs. Um, so that's how they, and and especially the Saudi elites, the Saudi government, they cannot, they really hate Palestine,
Well,
right?
they're tired
Like
of the
this
issue,
cause
they
of,
want it to go away. They're like, "Can"
yes.
that's how I see it, like, "Can we move on?" Like, they're tired of it. They're not bothered with it anymore. It's an obstacle to them. It's a pain in their ass. It's a thorn in their side.
Yeah, somebody's in the live chat that says they call them the beggars of the Middle East. They,
Oh,
they
shit.
think that they are freeloaders, that they, wherever they go, they don't assimilate like in other more modern, advanced Arab countries. That they just bring in all their problems to that country, and they cause all that country, that country, bring their problems with them, and their radicalism and their chaos and everything. Again, not my views. I'm just saying how other, but especially Saudi Arabia itself is so annoyed with the Palestinian cause, especially because the Palestinian cause is the Islamic Republic cause. This is the Palestinian cause is mostly the Islamic regime in Iran's weapon against the unity of Arab countries together, and also Arab countries with the West and the rest of the world. Like this is always being used as, it used to be weaponized by Wahhabis, but not as much anymore, right? So we have, when it comes to Islamic forces in the Middle East, we have three main powers, right? We have Wahhabism, we have Muslim Brotherhood, and we have Khomeinism, so, or the Vilayat Faqih version of Shia Islam, right? So these are the three Islamic powers in the Middle East, and all of these three Islamic powers used to take advantage of the used Palestinian blood to further their agenda. So Wahhabism was used by the Saudis, but now, there was an attempt of divorce between the House of Saud and House of Wahhab back in before 1979, but the Islamic Revolution in Iran stopped that divorce, and now there's a second attempt at this divorce. To be able to go further with, because Saudi Arabia always wanted to become more westernized and leave the Wahhabi side of Saudi Arabia aside, because it had caused them nothing but trouble. So it would remain those two powers. Muslim Brotherhood doesn't have any state except in Gaza. So the main power using, other than Ataturk, the main power in the Middle East no, sorry, other than I'm saying other than the Islamists in Turkey, Erdogan moving against the secular. So it's interesting because Saudi Arabia is moving towards, westernization away from Islamism. In Turkey, we're moving towards Islamization against what Ataturk was trying to do, the secularization of Turkey. Muslim Brotherhood has failed in Egypt and in other Sunni countries. The only place that has a state is in Gaza. Wahhabism is failing because Saudi Arabia is moving away from Islamization. So, number one main promoter of the Palestinian cause, the power behind the Palestinian so-called cause, is the regime, the Islamic regime in Iran, and the number two is, with a huge distance, is Erdogan in Turkey. So given that Saudi Arabia is the enemy of the Islamic Republic in Iran, they consider this whole Palestinian cause to be such a threat to them. So they have to act like they support it because there's so many people still in their country that are extremely Muslim and extremely even though the Saudis themselves hate the Palestinian cause, the Saudi people, citizens, still support the Palestinian cause. So this is the kind of the opposite of Iran. In Iran, the government supports the Palestinian cause. The people in Iran don't support the Palestinian cause. The people in Iran more and more are becoming pro-Israeli every day. In Saudi Arabia, it's the opposite. In Saudi Arabia, the government wants to move closer to the West and Israel, but the people don't let the government, because you have to be very careful not to start a revolution, an Islamic revolution in Saudi Arabia, right? So the government, even though it's a dictatorship, it's not a democratic country. Even dictators have to worry about the opinions of their citizens, or else, if it gets too distant, then they have to worry about the people turning on them and basically removing them from power, right? Either the Wahhabis or the Muslim Brotherhood or the Shia parts of Saudi Arabia, which is the most oil-rich part of Saudi Arabia. That's also a danger that the Islamic Republic in Iran is always trying to take advantage of, right? So it's interesting. You look at the evolution that we're seeing, because Saudi Arabia, the reason why Saudi Arabia after 1979 started supporting Wahhabism, it was because it was trying to compete with the Islamic Republic of Iran when they were exporting their Shia revolution beyond their borders, and they thought that they have to go back in supporting Wahhabism to spread their ideology, Islam that is the brand of the Saudi Arabia. So we had Khomeinism, which is Shia Islam, the brand of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they were becoming more Western. But after the Islamic Revolution, they thought that they have to promote their brand of Islam, which is Wahhabism, to compete with the Islamic Republic of Iran, and that backfired on them. Right? It didn't actually help Saudi Arabia; it backfired on the Souths. So now they're giving up their strategy completely, and just moving back to the westernization, getting close to Israel and the West, like they were trying to do before 1979, right? But if you look at the evolution, it's pretty interesting, because back in the day when they were going full Wahhabi, if you read their elementary school books, it was promoting in Saudi Arabia. Elementary school books was promoting genocide against Jewish people in their school books, right? So we went from promoting genocide against Jewish people to not promoting genocide against Jewish people to now going more like even a little bit more distant from what they were before, to maybe promoting tolerance. And now we're getting to a point where nobody even saw coming. So we went like, hey, like, down with Israel, like death to the Jews, to Palestine. Who? Like Palestine? Like I mean, we expected them to eventually be more pro-Israeli, but to go this fast, to the point where Palestine, Palestine not being recognized, that is a lot like faster than most people anticipated, right? Like, it's one thing for you not to promote anti-Semitism or not be anti-Israeli. It's another thing for you to just completely be so open and direct and fast with regards to stop backing the Palestinian cause so openly. Like, it's pretty daring to be able to do that. But again, this was we people who this is just them saying the quiet part out loud, because everybody who looks at Saudi policies knew that this is how they felt for a very long time. like even with their negotiations with Israel, they keep on having to say that, oh yeah, the Abrahamic Accord is conditional on Israel accepting the two-state solution. They say that because they have to say that. But behind closed doors, if you actually look at their negotiations with like the indirect negotiations that I had with Israel, they have made it clear that you accepting Palestine as a state does not have to be written in an agreement. It could just be orally agreed upon privately, right? And they also communicated to Israel that it could be orally communicated with us. I mean, this was their attempt to signal that to Israel. Privately communicate that to us for an attempt for Palestine to be a country, not for the promise. Like you don't have to promise us that Palestine will eventually be a country. You just have to orally, in private, without writing it, say that we will consider attempting to get to a point where Palestine will be a country. That's what Saudi Arabia was signaling to Israel. Like basically what they were saying, like we might go aggressively say like, yes, yeah, Palestine, 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 aggressively for an internal audience. But when it comes to Israel themselves, they're like, okay, this is what we're saying for them, just to make sure that people do not get too angry with us. But by the way, people are angry with them. Like the Saudi government is seen by most Islamists as worse than the devil himself. Like the Saudi government is not considered to be Muslim by most Islamists. They are considered to be a Western puppet. They're considered to be Zionist. They're considered to be an enemy of Islam. Most people, most Sunni Muslims who take Islam seriously, do not consider, unless they are the type of Islamists that the house of that Saudi Arabia is paying and promoting, like they're coming from the Medina school that Saudi Arabia is supporting. Like those are the few Islamic scholars that are coming from Saudi Arabia directly itself, which is very interesting because these are the same scholars that are promoting a non-political version, a non version of Islam where Muslims don't get involved in politics. Hold on. But I have a video I want to show you.
Well, I
Oh, you
also
have a
found
video
the
too.
video that you wanted. I put it
Oh,
in the bio
wow, you
chat.
did?
Yes, I
Oh
did.
my God, this is juicy. Can we show this to people?
Yeah, I think you've
Let's
covered it
see.
on the show before. I mean, we should state that we don't like really
Okay,
endorse everything that they say.
guys, this is
I'm gonna go to the bathroom
very,
though. I'll be right
very
back.
okay. Well, I want to wait for you because this is I want to see your reaction.
I'll be right
So
back.
go to
No, I've
worship.
seen this before.
Okay, okay, okay. Guys, brace yourselves. This is this is pretty intense. Okay. I don't even know if you want to see this. So, YouTube, we do not agree with these views. We're just trying to demonstrate what we have been saying here. And again, this is the view by many non-Islamist, not non like politically Islamic Arabs in Gulf Arabs. You know, like I'm talking about UAE, Qatar, um, Saudi Arabia. This has been a view that they have been having for a long time. And this man said all of this out loud after October 7th. So this is this man's reaction to October 7th. Again, YouTube, please do not strike us down. This is just this man's view that I'm showing to our audience for educational purposes, right? Okay, so he is this the audio he's saying this to Palestinians. Okay, so this man is saying there's nothing Saudi Arabia didn't give you. It even established a state for you.
Wait,
A
we have no
state.
audio.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay, let me go
Yeah.
back from the beginning. Glad thing you came back. Okay, so here. There's nothing Saudi Arabia didn't give you. It even established a state for you. King Fahad. when President Reagan asked him to finance the Contras rebel groups,
تمويل سوار الكونترا قال له وحده بوحده.
He said one good turn deserves another.
ابي دوله لفلسطين قال له
Give me a Palestinian. Reagan said okay.
ووقع الخطاب
They agreed upon a Palestinian state. King Fahad informed Arafat they have gotten a Palestinian state. Arafat ran away and agreed to meet King Fahad. Only 10 years after all of this, Arafat wasn't interested in a Palestinian state. None of you want a Palestinian. So he's talking to Palestinians and he's saying none of you want a Palestinian state. Since you have no case, no country, and no land. Okay, so this is Saudi man telling Palestinian people that you have no case, no country, and no land. This land belongs to Israel. Okay. According to the Quran. This is very interesting because a lot of Arabs are now saying to Palestinians that what are you talking about Palestine? The Quran mentions Israel. There's not a single mention of Palestine in the Quran, and there is constant mention of Israel in the Quran.
I've seen a lot of Muslims talk about this actually.
Yes, the word, and they say the word Palestine is Western imperialism, specifically the Roman Empire. Okay, the Roman Empire gave the name Palestine to that land, and the name of the land before Palestine was Israel. And the Roman Empire gave the name Palestine to that land because it was anti-Jewish. It changed the name of that land. So you guys who are calling it Palestine, you're choosing a Roman Empire as an actual Western Empire's name over the Quranic name, which is Israel for that land, right?
How the turntables.
Yeah, and which is weird because the word Palestine, you can't even pronounce it. You call it Palestine because the name Palestine that the Roman Empire gave to that land has the sound P in it, which you don't have in Arabic. So this name is so foreign to you that you don't even have the sounds to make it. Anyways, let's continue. And you are displaced people, scattered from all over. So he's basically now questioning Palestinians to not be even Arabs. He's saying you're Mongolian, Turkmen, Kyrgyzstan, Armenian, Gypsies.
Many are Egyptians and Saudis. From
I don't care about like ethnic roots of people, but this guy is.
No, but I mean, you can tell by people's names.
Right. Yeah. And then he says you have nothing in Palestine. Palestine is the state of Israel for the people of Israel. And the people of Israel, just so you know, the people of Israel are the sons of Isaac. And we Arabs are the sons of Ismail. Isaac and Ismail were brothers and their fathers were Abraham. That's why they call it the Abraham Accord, like the accord that is trying to bring Saudi Arabia and other Arab countries with Israel because they share a father in Abraham. That makes them our cousins. But where did you come from? So he first is trying to say Palestinians are not Arabs, and he says we Arabs are brothers with Jews. But where the hell did you come from?
Shit.
Again, I'm not saying this. This man is saying that. Okay, so how are you a part of all this? You were scattered, or originally Gypsies, Mongols, Turkmens, Kyrgyzstan. What?
Circassian.
No. Circassian. I mean, okay, so I missed it. Circassian, Romans. Leftovers of other peoples. How are you a part of all of this? How are you part of all this? Oh, how are you part of us? The people of Israel live in their
على
land,
أرضهم ما لكم أرض أنتم
but you have no land and have no
ولا لكم
case.
قضية يا جماعة أنتم أدوختونا وش
Don't try to fool
غلطونا
us.
والأقصى الأقصى
And about the Al-Aqsa Mosque, oh, this is a key point in the Quran, okay? Al-Aqsa Mosque, because the people think that the second holiest place, the third holiest place in Islam is supposed to be Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem because the Quran refers to it. So now he questions that. He's like, I think he's going to mention that the mosque mentioned in the Quran, there's no proof that that's mentioning that mosque in Jerusalem, because that mosque was built after, the time that the Quran refers to a mosque in Jerusalem, there was nothing there. That mosque didn't exist there. So I think that's what he's going to refer to.
معلوميتك ما عندكم أقصى
There's no such thing as Al-Aqsa Mosque. There's only Al-Aqsa, Al-Quds, Jerusalem.
في شيء اسمه
Okay.
أقصى في شيء اسمه القدس المسجد الأقصى
The Al-Aqsa Mosque mentioned in the Quran
ورد ذكره أو بالجعرانة
is located in Jura, 29 kilometers from the city of Taif. So basically saying that Quranic mosque that you think refers to the one mosque in Jerusalem is actually referring to a different mosque that is not in Jerusalem.
29 كيلو على الطائف وكان المسجدين المقصد
There are two mosques, Al-Aqsa, the further, and the Al-Adna, which is the closer.
المسجد الأقصى والمسجد الأدنى المسجد الأقصى حق
Your mosque was built in Hisham in the year 6. Oh, yeah. The Al-Aqsa Mosque that the Palestinians are mentioning, that was built in 682 AD.
لكم بناها الشام عام 72 هجري كيف يسرى لهم
How could Muhammad visit a structure which was built in the year 682?
محمد له
So because Muhammad did the Miraj, right? He did the miracle when he went from Mecca all the way from now Saudi Arabia all the way to Jerusalem and visited that mosque. But that mosque wasn't even built back then. So he's like, this is not the mosque that you think it is.
هو مبني عام 72 للهجرة يعني بعد وفاة
60 years after Muhammad has died. So the mosque was built after Muhammad's death.
محمد ب60 سنة
So the Quran could not have been referring to this mosque in Jerusalem.
تضحكون على مين أنتم
Who are you trying to fool?
تضحكون على مين الفلسطيني
You Palestinians,
أنت
you are not Arabs. Like he's saying that quite now clearly. You are not Arabs.
أنت عربي ولا لك أرض
You have no land and no case.
ولا لك قضية الأرض
The land belongs to Israel,
والقضية قضية
and the case is the case of
إسرائيل
Israel.
معكم كان
Back then, Israel prime ministers is Yitzhak Shamir and Rabin and Sharon and Golda Meir.
شامير ورابين وشارون وجولدا مائير والثاني والله ما ادري شو اسمه
And another one, I forgot his name.
هذول كانوا ابطال
They were heroes. He's calling Israeli prime ministers heroes. Did you know? But okay, so now he's anti-Netanyahu. But Prime Minister Netanyahu is a coward.
لكن نتنياهو جبان لا نتنياهو ما
Because Netanyahu didn't burn you.
Oh,
Yeah. So he's saying Netanyahu is a coward for not burning the Palestinians.
ما ادري وش يبي
Again, YouTube, not our views. We are just, this is educational purpose. We're just reviewing this man's views.
الاسلحه مكدسها عنده يا أدري
Netanyahu burned these criminals. Dispose of them already for your sake, the world's and ours.
يا نتنياهو احرق هالعصابات هذه وهالشتات وهالملفقين وريح نفسك وريح العالم منهم وريحنا احنا منهم ليش مخليه
Why do you keep them?
ليش فتح لهم
Why did you open the borders and let them escape?
الحدود يهاجرون راحوا للاردن
In Jordan, they caused the Black September in 1970. So like 70% of the population of Jordan is now Palestinian. He said, like, why did you let them go
سووا
there?
ويلول الاسود وراحوا للكويت
In Kuwait, they plundered when Saddam Hussein occupied the country in 1991.
يوم صدام احتله نهبوا يلبسون
They wore the Iraqi army uniform and looted stores.
الجيش العراقي وينهبون الخسه والنساء
They kept on being mean and despicable.
والحقاره ما يتركونها هذه تربيتهم
It's part of their education and who they
هذا
are.
دمهم وهذا عرقهم ليش ما تريح
If you're a man, Netanyahu, why not do the world a favor and get rid of them?
العالم منهم يا
Jesus
نتنياهو
Christ.
رجال وبطل
Yeah.
ها الله
Amir
يلعن
Sin,
May
this
God-
guy is more Israeli right wing than me.
God damn it. Say, may God curse you and curse even Netanyahu for not getting rid of you. So he's talking to Palestinians.
عنكم ويلعن حتى نتنياهو اللي ما خلصنا منكم لان نتنياهو
Because Netanyahu throw you a life preserver.
تارك لكم الحبل على الغارب
True, I think.
والمفروض
He's the one who is supposed to torment
نتنياهو
you
هو اللي يأدبكم وهو اللي يخلص
and dispose the world of your evil
العالم من
deeds.
شروركم انتم شر في اي دوله
You Palestinians are evil in any country you set foot on.
تحطون فيها يا الفلسطينيين شر من
Pure evil and no decent man no decent man among you.
ولا بكم رجل انا مستعد
I'm willing to spend the night with a Jew and not a Palestinian.
لا انام عند يهودي ولا انام عند فلسطيني انا مستعد
I am willing to host a Jew in my house, give him food and water and a bed to sleep in,
اقلط يهودي في بيتي واغديه واوكله واشربه وارقده ولا
and not let a Palestinian enter my house. Jesus.
ادخل فلسطيني في بيتي والسلام عليكم
Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye. That's such a crazy way to end that rant. Holy cow. Here's some extremely genocidal stuff I have to say.
I do not agree
Thank
with.
you and goodbye.
Yeah. Yes. By the way, Zaid. I felt insulted because Zaid is here and Zaid is Palestinian living in Jordan, and I feel like when he was saying about all Palestinians, I was feeling bad because of our very own Zaid here, right?
Yeah, I'm like, not our baby.
Not.
No,
yeah.
Here's the thing. I think, well, obviously that guy is like full blown extremist.
Yeah.
Or
I'm just trying to show you like what's.
Yeah, it's an attitude that does exist. Like I was talking to one of my Lebanese friends about this issue, and like his dad is like pretty freaking hardcore. And I on YouTube, I cannot repeat what his dad says about Palestinians, but then my friend was like, yeah, no, I mean, insert despicable racist statement. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, the thing is, my dad just hates Jews more than he hates Palestinians. So, like, that's the unifying factor here.
Yeah, so some people are saying, like, see, like, proud Zionist is saying he's generalizing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if he was talking about like Netanyahu being a coward and just like not taking out Hamas, I don't think we would like have an issue with that.
Right.
You know, like, why are you keeping them on life support? Because there are ways in which Netanyahu kept Hamas on life support. Like, if he was just like a little bit more specific, then we'd be like, oh, okay, no problem. Well, goddamn.
Yeah. So, have you seen this video I'm about to show you?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so guys, watch this. This is what happens to you if in Saudi Arabia you try to raise the Palestinian flag. This is right next to the Kaaba. So let's look at this.
Every day alhamdulillah. Every day alhamdulillah. Ya Rabbim Allah ekber. Allah'ım sen bilsin ya Rabbim. Sen bilsinler yardımcı ol Allah'ım. Ya Rabbim ya Resulallah. Sen Rahman sen Kerimsin Allah'ım. Sen Kerimsin sen Rahmansın Allah'ım. Şimdi polisler geldi arkadaşlar. Hemen kadının yanına geldiler.
So how many people do you think, Susie, know that you could get in trouble in Saudi Arabia for holding the Palestinian flag right next to the Kaaba? Like, this is not people. So this woman, the flag was taken away, and she was also detained for holding a Palestinian flag. But here's the interesting thing. So some people are saying, well, yeah, it's next to the Kaaba. That's what happens. But a lot of where this was posted, where last time I saw this somewhere posted, a lot of Arabs in the comments were celebrating this. You know, some people. So depends where this is posted. If this is like a lot of Islamists condemn this, but a lot of like pan-Arabist type people, they celebrate this. They're like, good job, like get that garbage out of there. Like I saw people in Arabic insulting that woman for holding the Palestinian flag. So I think it's a lot more complicated than people understand. There is pan-Arabism or Arab nationalism on one side, and when we have Islamism on the other side. So a lot of Islamists are sharing this video to show how evil the Saudi government is, but a lot of also Arabs who are sharing this around, celebrating this, like, yeah, that filth, that woman, take that filth out of our country or something like
Well,
that.
and yeah, Zaid
So,
is bringing up a good point. So to be fair, not even the Saudi flag is raised in the Kaaba.
yes,
Like they don't
that's
play
what I
any
said.
nationalist stuff at all. Like any
Yeah, that's
flag,
what I
they would
said.
take it down. They don't tolerate it.
I know, that's what I said. I said, like, to be fair, this is the Kaaba, like, so you could expect that to happen in regards to the flag. But that's why I said it's not just what this police officer did. It's also like a lot of people celebrating what this police officer did, as in, like, that's specifically against the Palestinian flag. So, yeah.
We have a lot of super chats to go through. Angie's saying, Israeli here. What?
Yeah.
And Shami gave a super chat saying, thanks for pointing out that derogatory term earlier. Yes, that is right. We do not appreciate that kind of slander and terminology towards our Pakistani community members. It's not okay. And Zaid is saying, not to be racist against my own people, but they did try to overthrow the Jordanian government back in Black September and played a major role in the Lebanese civil war. And then Sandra goes, those are just facts.
Well, okay, so no, they're partly facts. Okay, they're partially. So it is a fact that many Palestinians tried to do that and did all of these terrible things that this man was referring to. The part that we are disagreeing with, we're not disagreeing that many Palestinians did that. We're disagreeing with generalizing to every single Palestinian. Right? We cannot say, like, oh, like, all Palestinians are evil, all Palestinians are this, all Palestinians are that. Okay, we could be. We don't want to deny historic events that happened, but at the same time, we don't want to condemn every. So this would be guilt by association. Just because certain people with your ethnicity did something, that doesn't make you also guilty of that same crime, right? They do exist good Palestinians out there, right? It's not something that doesn't exist, okay? And that man was making it seem like that does not exist.
But the thing is, what we're trying to speak to is an attitude
Right.
that many Arabs have in the
Yes.
surrounding countries, that Palestinians are a fifth column wherever they are. We're trying to
Right.
speak to the fact that that attitude exists.
Exists, yes. We're not saying if the attitude is right. We're just saying that the attitude does exist. You're
Gasian American gave a super chat saying, how do monarchists justify their rule over Muslims? It depends a lot on the cultural context. So in Arab societies, it's going to be very different than the combination of the imamate and the Persian monarchy. It's a different structure. But it was kind of interesting. I've been following this guy who is an Emirati, and he is a liberal Muslim against Islamism, a supporter of Israel. I don't know if he would call himself a Zionist, but he made some posts recently about how he's a monarchist, and basically, in his opinion, he does not think that democracy is a good fit for Arabs. In his words, he said that Arabs are a tribal society and they follow a just ruler, and that's why, especially as an Emirati, he follows the monarchy, which was interesting coming from someone who holds the other positions that he does. But Armin, I know you're very, very knowledgeable about this. Do you have anything you want to add?
So the understanding is that if somebody is ruling over you, is so some people have there's an Islamic way of understanding this. When it comes, they give into deterministic view on God. Like, if somebody is ruling over you, is because God has chosen them to rule over you, right? So it doesn't matter how they manage to rule over you. The fact that they're ruling over you means that they are fit to rule over you, unless there's only two conditions that allows you to rise against them. Okay, well, Actually, let's make it one main conditions, because the other ones could be argued. Okay, if the ruler is upholding Sharia, if they are okay, two conditions. First of all, if there is Islamic law is being allowed to be the law of the land, one. Two, if you practicing Islam is not being meddled with. So this has been a huge topic among Sunni Muslims, even not these days, is a huge topic of um, infighting, right? Because a lot of Muslims, a lot of Islamists are anti the Saudi government. So they are trying to, there's a lot of fighting between Muslims online right now regarding whether is it Islamically okay to be against your government, because this has been a huge taboo, something that only people consider the Khawarij to do. Most Sunni Islamic schools of thought believe that it's not okay to rise up against your government. You should accept their ruling, even if you figure out that they're not Muslim. So here's an interesting point. Like, even if you figure out that they are faking, like they're not living Islamic lives themselves, and they're not being honest regarding their Islamic belief, it doesn't matter. And again, these made it into the hadith because the Abbasid dynasty and the Umayyad dynasty were intentionally put this in the hadith because they were trying to make sure people don't rise up against them, right? So even if they're drinking wine, even if they're having sex with outside of what Islamically is allowed, all of that, if any of that information gets to you, you should still not rise up against them, as long as they are letting you live Islamic lives, and as long as the law of the land that they're supporting is Islam. So now for a lot of Muslims, for example, like Daniel Hayraju, who wants to promote being against like the Saudi government, they have to somehow show that Islamic law is not being enforced in Saudi Arabia. And guess what? Justin Bieber concerts, wine now being allowed, Halloween having in Saudi Arabia, Nicki Minaj going, and like, who did Nicki Minaj go to Saudi Arabia? I don't know. Anyways,
I think she
didn't
did.
go.
Or maybe
Okay,
she
who was it?
backed out after she got backlash from her
Yeah, I
fans.
think she backed out.
I
Yeah,
think
but all of
Beyonce
this,
did.
all of these non-Islamic ways of living in Saudi Arabia is now giving more legitimacy to people who are saying that the Saudi government is not fit to rule Saudi Arabia, because even if they were munafiqs, now they are not even upholding Islamic law, right? So it's okay for you to rise against them. So that's what they're suggesting. So, but again, these people like Sajid Libham are saying, like, what are you doing? This is what the Khawarij promoted, and this is going to cause instability among the Ummah, among the Islamic community, and it's going to turn Muslim on Muslim. It's going to bring back the times that Muslim killed other Muslims, and they're warning against it. So this is a huge debate among the Islamic community right now online, which is very interesting. And again, the Palestinian cause helps people become more anti-Saudi. The more the Palestinian cause gets bolded, the more people pay attention to the Palestinian cause, the more Muslims will become a fan of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and the more anti-Saudi they become. And this is another reason why the Saudi government hates the Palestinian cause, because it's turning Muslims around the world against the Saudi government.
Yeah, and Zaid actually was recently sending me, Saudi Arabia is now holding metal concerts and competitions in Saudi Arabia. He's like, we have Saudi metal showcases now. Oh my God. Asian American gave him a super chat. Thank you. Quoting from the oath that you made, Armin, upon receiving your citizenship to the glorious nation of Canada, quote, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of Canada, her heirs and successors, you monarchist shill, insert eagle screeching.
Okay, he says joking, so that's not part of the oath. I don't think. Okay,
so you're stuck. It's not time sensitive. You did swear fealty.
No, he says it's joking. I didn't promise anything with the heirs. I don't even remember what the oath was. And what does that even mean? Like, okay, it doesn't. It's a
You
meaningless
must be
oath.
loyal to the
The
king.
queen. What does that even mean?
When I got my pepper spray seized at the Canadian border, I had to relinquish it to the ownership of the king. King Charles has my pepper spray now.
Yeah, I
Because I
remember that.
accidentally tried to enter Canada with what was apparently a weapon. I didn't know that was a weapon. I did not declare it at the border. Susanna made an oopsies.
Oh yeah, no, to the earth.
What the
It does
fuck
say
is
to
a
her heirs.
kilometer? John
Okay,
gave a super.
where truly. Okay, so it does. The oath does says to her heirs as well. Okay, but what does bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth and her heirs means? Like, what does that mean?
Allegiance, alliance, loyalty.
Okay, but what's it? Okay, what is he supposed to do?
Are you prepared to die for the king?
This is such a stupid oath. The oath should be like accepting the laws of the country, not like allegiance to the freaking queen. Like, nobody even knows what that means. It doesn't mean anything. It's such a bad oath. Anyway,
I still can't believe that that's a thing in Canadian politics. It's so weird to me. It's so weird.
yeah, yeah.
And then when the queen dies, does that mean that, because when I go to Canada, like I see like, you know, the crest of the queen on everything, like garbage cans. I'm like, well, now the queen isn't here anymore. Do you need to replace all this with King Charles? We have to have his ugly mug all over everything. Does he have to go on the money
I mean,
now?
the queen and the king has no impact on Canadian politics.
Exactly.
I mean,
So
not
just throw
even.
it out.
So what? What is? I mean, not even Canadian politics has anything to do with the king and the queen and the king. So why, as a Canadian citizen, that means nothing for me to swear allegiance to Her Majesty. It's just take that out of the oath. For oh my god. Anyways,
Okay, so next super chat is by John. Thank you, John, saying the KSA government policy progress has made me optimistic, but I'm uncertain on social change. There's a long ways to go. The Eden Knight case saddens me. Honestly, what are your thoughts on it? So, this is a situation where a trans woman, I believe she was in her early 20s, she did a self-deletion because she was being forced to return to Saudi Arabia with her family and then forced to detransition. I mean, obviously that case itself was like very sad and tragic. In general though, I think what people need to keep in mind is that while this is like a very, very top down social reforms, right? And what people really need to keep in mind is that Saudi, within the past year, like imprisoned several women to like 34 years in prison for merely liking some tweets that supported women's rights and women's rights activists, right? So it's still extremely, extremely oppressive. And it sends a message. It's like, no, 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 no. This comes from above. You don't get to fight for it yourself. You don't get to ask for this yourself. Like, let us be very, very clear. So
yeah,
that's
and
what
in
people
many
need to keep in
senses, it
mind.
has gotten worse. Okay, because when it comes to freedoms, we have three types of freedoms, right? We have social freedoms, we have economic freedom, and we have political freedom, right? And technically, without the political freedom, the two other freedoms are not are not actual freedoms. They're gifts from above that could be taken away. You only get all three forms of freedom when you actually have political freedom. Because what something when what the king has given to you, the king can take away unless the people have the actual power to because freedom is something that you should be taken, not something that is given from above. Because if it's given from above, it could be taken from above. But if it's taken by the people, then it cannot be taken from above. And you could take your freedoms when you have political freedom. And the problem in Saudi Arabia is that it's true that a lot of social freedoms are being given, but a lot of political freedoms are being taken. So when it comes to the social freedom realm, things are getting better. But when it comes to the political freedom realm, things are actually getting worse. Things have been worse than it has ever been in Saudi Arabia. So you could have a concert, you could drive, women can drive a car, some people may have a beer, and that's all great. You could have Halloween now, but dissent is crushed more than ever
Yeah,
before.
God help you.
People,
Yeah.
yeah, dissent is crushed more than ever before. People who were against the regime, against the government, they're disappeared, killed, tortured more than before, not less than before, more than before. And the problem is that social freedoms are a lot more shiny. They're like, people pay more attention to them because, oh, look, women can like wear this. Oh, look, we have concerts. Oh, look, they have cinema. That's more interesting. But the political freedom, which doesn't get as much media attention, that is so much more essential. And when they take it away, it's much more crushed. And like, people don't like to hear about somebody being tortured in jail because they tweeted something. That's not interesting. People
Just
like to hear about
tweets.
Yes, people like to hear about a Justin Bieber concert in Saudi Arabia for the first time ever. That's
Yeah,
exciting
Iggy
news.
Azalea's showing her ass. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
Asian American gave a super chat that has some Chinese characters in it, which I'm assuming translates to within the four C's, all are siblings. That's the attitude we need. Adam and Eve gave a super chat, thank you, saying very interesting as always. Thank you both. Which is actually a good reminder. Like the stream if you haven't liked the stream. Make sure to comment after the stream about your favorite segment. And we actually have most people watching on Twitter right now. We have like triple the amount of people watching on Twitter than we have watching on YouTube right now. So if you're on Twitter, make sure to come over to our YouTube channel, Atheist Republic, subscribe, like the stream, and you can then interact with us in the live chat because we can't interact with the people on Twitter at all.
Yeah.
And
just go on YouTube and search for Atheist Republic, and our channel will show up, and subscribe to us there.
Yeah. Michelle gave a super chat saying thoughts on labor unions in the West taking up the Palestinian cause, e.g., university unions supporting the encampments. Okay, this is not entirely surprising, both because of how like basically the ideological amalgamation of left-leaning causes in which labor union rights generally fits under. But the other thing, which I saw a speaker talk about recently, I can't remember his name, is that what we need to keep in mind is that a lot of organizations adopt other causes because it helps keep them politically relevant. So let's just say, and as an example, maybe there's a transgender organization and the transgender issue maybe isn't as hot in the moment. Okay, well, what can they do to like show their donors or something that they're doing something? Okay, well, let's go show that we're supporting being on the right side of history. So we're going to like go adopt the Palestinian cause as our own, even though under basically any other circumstance, like it has nothing to do with us. So I think there's an element of that as well, like literally just trying to remain relevant and using this as a quick and easy way to do so. And Momo Joe gave a super sticker. Thank you, Mumu. Unicorn. Oh, our lovely unicorn gave us $2. Just said, thanks as always, Susan Armin. Thank you. And look at all this love we're getting. This is so sweet. Angie Unier is saying thank you and to all for the amazing community. Yes, it is people that support us by super chats, becoming members on PayPal, link in the description, members on Patreon, link in the description, people who donate that make what we do possible. And people all around the world get benefit from it.
So I don't know why it didn't show that on the StreamYard, but I'm seeing it on YouTube. There was one super chat says, hi. So it's by SHIT channel for you, okay? Saying, hi, I wonder how do Islam today treat Nule? What is this? Nule?
I don't know what this is. We got some weird weird super chat asking, how does Islam treat Nulu eunuchs? I had to look this up. Apparently, this is some weird body modification cult where you purposefully like self-castrate.
Yeah. How come that comment didn't show up on StreamYard? I'm
I don't
concerned
know.
that
Mulo
maybe.
Unix. Generally I would think that it would not support castrating yourself.
Well,
I don't know many
I made a
movements that
stream.
do promote that. That's pretty extreme.
Well, I had a stream showing you the specific things Islam lets you do with cut penises. I don't know if you saw that stream.
Oh God.
So I
Oh
do.
no, not that again.
Remember?
Oh God, that was traumatizing.
There's a huge instructions in Islam, detailed instructions on what types of cut penises you could insert into yourself and how to wash after. Specifically, again, I'm just go watch that stream. It's a pretty bizarre stream.
That was upsetting.
Yeah.
Is that in the anal jihad episode?
Yes, it's called anal
Yeah,
jihad.
just look up our
Go
stream
watch.
called Anal Jihad.
Mhm.
So
I'm not kidding. This is part of Islamic teaching.
no, I mean, and I just want to know what was going on. What was going on that they needed so many dictates about what you do with cut off penises? What was happening? What was happening?
Actually,
What is the context?
yeah.
What's the relevance?
No, but it's also like it talks about animals cut penises, and it talks
Mhm.
about the age of the cut penises and the
Mhm.
length of it, and all of the instructions are not about whether you could do it or not. All of the instructions are like whether you need to wash or not wash after you insert it, depending on which hole you insert it in, and how deeply you insert it in, and how big the thing is, and what is it from? Is it from an adult? Is it from a child? Is it from an animal? Is it from a female animal? Is it from like a male animal? It's so bizarre. It's one of the most bizarre Islamic, and it goes into so much detail. And again, it never tells you don't do it. It just tells you if you insert this much, you don't need to wash. If you insert that much, you do need to wash. If it's from an animal, you do need to wash. If it's from a human below a certain age, you don't need to wash. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Just go watch that stream.
But in what context do you need to make these decisions? What is going on in society or in some weirdo scholar's mind that they need to make these decisions?
Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.